This is Office Hours,
a show for sharing experiences and stories in governance, risk management, and compliance.
Hey Dan, I talk to a lot of customers who really struggle with how do we capture risk events as they happen? How can we create action off them? How can we ensure that there's follow-up? And today we're going to show you how you can use ACL software to automate a lot of that for you.
Totally. So I'd never find a client who says, or not often, at least not outside of financial services, who says, I want to capture risk events, right? But there's lots of organizations out there that perhaps want to have an ethics hotline where they can anonymously report issues of fraud or perhaps sexual harassment they've observed, things of that nature. Submit conflict of interest issues, maybe submit where we saw a security problem or a lock on a door, physical security is broken, or even taking a step further, thinking sort of by industry. If I'm a mining company or a manufacturing company, how do I report that a given piece of safety equipment is malfunctioning? Or in that financial services scenario, actually loss events of how can we report, here's an event we saw where we suffered losses. How do we report that, route it around, and evaluate root cause?
Yeah, ensure that somebody's doing something about it. So today in our episode of Office Hours, we're going to show you how using ACL software you can capture, monitor these events, and turn them into actionable workflow, essentially. So in today's episode, going to show you how you can design a questionnaire or a form for capturing these events as they happen, how you can take that form, turn it into just a link that you can put on your internal intranet or some internal website so that employees can easily access it in order to report and submit these events, how you can set up triggers for notification, then how you can create action and workflow from these risk events to make sure, again, that somebody's actually following up and doing something about it. And lastly, how you can monitor the results in real time using a feature that we call Storyboards.
So this is a good example. I had a client that did something quite similar to this. In fact, it was a chain of hospitals back in the Midwest that had issues observing non-compliance with their safety policy around washing their hands. Effectively, what they did was create this sort of a risk event capture form or reporting form where you could anonymously report. You didn't even have to report who it was, but we've missed hand washing missed a hand washing when it was supposed to occur by policy. There's a public link available, click on, be able to do that, and then set up triggers. Each time this happened, notify the department head that saw it, or perhaps after it happened 10 times within a given department, notify somebody, and then begin to create some action and workflow around how do we make sure, hey, we've seen it enough times here that we want to implement a training policy or recommunicate the policy, or do some training, etc., as well as finally provide executive reporting over all of it. So again, a litany of use cases you could apply this to, and most of the folks we're talking to today as an ACL customer already has software to be able to do this.
Yeah, all you really need to do everything we're going to show you today is one ACL Analytics license. You get access to all the stuff that we're going to show you, and we'll show you, essentially we're going to do a software demo and show you how you can build this and do similar type of thing against any of these types of use cases using our technology. So I'm going to jump right into it. Right now I'm in our results module, which you kind of get a light version of that if you have an ACL Analytics license.
Right, when you log into Launchpad, you'll see the link right there for results.
Yeah. So I'm in results. I've already created a collection. I'm here in my what we call a questionnaire. This is where you can build a custom form to capture certain types of information. So in this particular risk event report, I'm capturing what region does it pertain to, subsidiary, what department, or did you see this incident or risk happen in, and some other information as well. Now, when you post these public links, it's a totally anonymous report, but I did have an optional follow-up detail here where you can basically say yes or no. You can contact me for follow-up and then provide some follow-up information as well.
So, Kevin, this form is going to be generic when we see it. But if I were a mining company, for example, I could say, what mine did this occur in? What was the violation of safety policy that I saw? What department did it occur in? What shift was the violation noticed on? Et cetera, et cetera. Following this basic format, again, apply it to any of those cases, and go either anonymous or non-anonymous, depending on how sensitive this particular type of risk event is.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on what information you need to capture, you can set that up depending on your needs, capture it, and then the real concept here is now you've created this this record or this case that you can follow up on, make sure that things are being taken care of, and action on it depending on violation in policy or some issue that's arisen.
So, Kevin, you're showing us this is a case where you're the GRC professional, as it were, building this sort of a form. Can I capture any kind of information? What all did you add here?
Yeah, so you can see here I have some radio button choices, some freeform text, some single select, and some multi-select. I'm just going to click on the add question button here, even though I'm not going to add a question. Just give you a bit of a sense for what type of information you can capture.
That makes sense. So sort of SurveyMonkey style. Now, you're the compliance or audit or risk or whoever, legal, HR, building this form. As me, the mine worker down in the mine, maybe you can go through and show me what I'll see when it's time. How do I actually submit this report, and what do I see?
Yeah, perfect. So I am just going to jump over and show you exactly. Just going to click on Distribute Event Report button, and when I do that, I get a link that I can share. So I'm going to copy that, open it up in my browser. And now let's pretend I clicked on that link in my internal intranet. I then get taken to this form that I fill out where you can provide, there's been some instructions provided here. And you can see in just a couple clicks and filling out a few text boxes, I can fill out what the risk event was, what departments it happened to, freeform text to describe a little bit of what I saw and in what detail I want to give it to you. And then I submit this information, and automatically right from there, I'll show you how we trigger some workflow.
Right. So this is really simple, and this link could go anywhere. So even as if I was really serious about safety events in the mine, as I go to the kiosk computer and check out do my time checkout from that shift, it might say if you witnessed any safety events on your shift today, please click here. It would take me straight to this form. I'd fill it out, and off we go.
Yeah, and as soon as this form is filled out and submitted, it has then captured that information from that particular event and stored it into our database.
Cool. So now, if I reported such a safety issue, hopefully somebody does something about it.
Yeah, that is a good segue to, I'm going to show you how you can automate some notifications and some workflow from that. So I'm going to click here on View Triggers, and I've actually already set one up called New Risk Event Notification. And this is the most basic trigger really that you can create, but there's all sorts of different ones that you can do. Essentially what I wanted to do was, since I'm the GRC professional, the risk officer, taking care of all these events as they come in, I want to be notified each time a new one comes in. I can then read the responses and do something about it. So you can see here, what event are you monitoring? I'm looking for when the status is new. That means a new risk event has been submitted. What do I want to do? I want to notify myself. And if I wanted to notify someone else, it's really easy. I just click notify. I can change the person who that notifies, and you can select one or more people. And then when do I want this to happen? Well, we can have this happen in real time as soon as the event is submitted. Or in some circumstances, you may want it to schedule to run at a certain time of day. In this case, I've chosen real time, so as soon as a new record is submitted, this is going to run, send me an email notification, and tell me about it.
So now in my case, for example, if I'm the shift supervisor, I could get a notification each morning that shows all new, each of the safety-oriented issues that were reported for the previous day or the previous week or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, right here we're doing a really simple example. All new events are coming to me, but you could actually see which department the risk event was reported for and easily route those to the different department heads. And then they could action on those in their individual departments.
Right.
So I'm just going to cancel out of here. Hopefully that gives you a good flavor for the types of triggers and notifications you can set up. Now I'm going to actually dive into the data. As you can see, when new risk events come in, so you can see I have about 20 here. As new risk events come in, all of the human data that's been captured from these forms is all being captured in essentially a table in our results module that then you can use to analyze, visualize, report on, as well as action on.
So this is basically the repository of all cases, as it were, that have been submitted, including the metadata around has it been closed out, who's it assigned to, maybe who's up for action next, all of that sort of thing. But the key is treating it like data so that you can build reporting and that sort of thing off of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I can see here I have a lot of work to do. All of these are new cases, but this one in particular is currently assigned to me. So I'm just going to show you how I can click on it, open it up, work with that particular risk event, and process it. So I'm going to highlight it, going to click process.
So here's the case.
Here's the case. Now I can see more of a vertical view of sort of question answer of that event data that came in. What region does it pertain to? What's the name of the company? And a bunch of other information. Now say, I know Dan, you're my boss, but let's say you're the department head for this particular department that this risk event happened for. I could easily click process here. I could say, okay, this one's no longer new. It's under review because I've looked at it. It looks like it might be medium priority. And then I can easily assign it to you or any other person in the system to work on. And then I click save, and then it immediately sends it down the line, sends a notification to the next person to work on. And anyone who gets this risk event and needs to work on it can easily add comments or attachments as necessary to provide some extra context around it.
Totally. And so now the interesting part is right now, Kevin, you're manually triaging the case to say, okay, here's what I've seen. I know this needs to go out to Dan to take a look at, whatever is appropriate. But if those questions are set up properly, we can use that notion of triggers that was spoken about before to do that processing automatically. So when the case comes in and it's of type safety incident and it's in the location of the New Mexico mining facility, it could be automatically triggered into the under review status and assigned to me as the shift supervisor to look into that particular case.
Yeah, it seems like an awful lot of work for me to have to do that manually every day. So I could use the same concept, the trigger that I showed you before, create a new one where basically I look at new records as they come in. I look at which department they came in for, and I'll just type in HR for this. And then when that happens, I want to automatically assign this record to a particular group. I could assign it to the whole HR department. And then whoever's available could pick it up, or I could assign it to a particular user within that department.
And since it's HR, it might be high priority, right?
Yeah, so then I could automatically set it up as not only assign it to that user, automatically set it to high priority, and assign it to Jason Green, who in this particular instance is in our HR department. Yeah, so that hopefully shows you how quickly and easily not only can you capture the information from the risk events as they're happening, but you can actually use the data that's being captured to create automatic workflow and send and route things to the right people, set the right status.
So there's full documentation on how to do all this in our help guides. But as you build out, as that list of triggers becomes long, you could build out a full workflow where it then goes to HR. We ask HR a series of questions. Based on those, goes over to legal, ask legal a series of questions, and finally turn it back over to you, Kevin, to close out the case.
Yeah, and you capture all that information down the line so that it's all bundled up nicely together in that one case.
So now what if you want to tell the CEO about, or the CEO or the governance committee or somebody of that nature, the overall state of submitted hotline events, risk events, safety reports, whatever these may be?
Well, you're getting a little bit ahead of the game. I'm just going to show really quickly how you can build some visualizations and metrics off this stuff, and then I'll show you how you can aggregate that up into what we call a storyboard. So I'm going to quickly jump in. Because we capture all this human data, all this form data in database tables, we can then report and visualize that information like you would any regular transactional data. So here's just a bar chart that's showing me risk incidents by region and department. I can see a lot happening in North America. It seems fairly distributed by department. I can maybe see the aggregation of the root cause of the different incidences, so incompetence or people not following policy or controls, et cetera, et cetera. We provide a number of different visualization data aggregation options for you to be able to slice and dice this data a bunch of different ways.
Very good for investigating through what's been submitted in aggregate.
Yeah, so if you want to report off all that information to your CEO, I'll just head on over to what I'm calling my risk event storyboard. What some people might call a dashboard, we call it a storyboard, because you can not only add your data visualizations there, but you can add some narrative and context around that so that people know how to read the visual data, and also a place for you to capture any insights you had while exploring the data. So here I can see, here's my regional risk distribution, my risk cause analysis. I have likelihood of reoccurrence by region as well, a root cause distribution, and also my monthly incidents by subsidiary. So I can see here very quickly in April, we've had 8 risk events, which is up quite a bit from March where we only had 2. And then I may be in a dashboard context, but if I want to drill down and see more information about any of that, in one click, I can go right to the details of that data and continue working with it or capture any additional information I need to capture.
So really, it's end to end. You can very quickly in here build something to cover that whole process from event submission through to case closeout and reporting. Hopefully, Kevin, there were no risk events submitted for those who are drinking beer at work.
Hopefully not. Thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll see you next time.